Hi, welcome to Health in Mind. My name is Salvador, and today I'm going to teach you the 3 main things you need to know in order to cut fat properly. So whether this be for a cutting phase right after a bulk or you just have some excess fat you're trying to get rid of, as long as you keep these 3 main things in check, you should be able to lose fat effectively while also maintaining good body and mind health as well. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So the number one most crucial thing when it comes to losing fat is going to be your calorie deficit. So if you don't already know what a calorie deficit is, it's basically just a way of saying you're eating less calories in a day than what you're burning. So there's a lot of misunderstandings and overcomplications when it comes to this process, but all it really boils down to when you want to lose weight of any kind is going to be your calories in versus your calories out. So in order to be in a calorie deficit, you need to know what your maintenance calorie count is, which is just how many calories you eat in a day in order to maintain your current weight. So you can figure this number out by going to the calculator in the description and entering your height, weight, and other info, and then it will give you what your maintenance calorie count is. Side note, another really accurate way of finding how many calories you're burning each day is going to be if you have an iPhone and an Apple Watch. If you go into the health app and enter your height, weight, age, and all that other information it asks for, you can pretty accurately track how many calories you're actually burning each day because it will vary from day to day depending on how much you move. But if you go to the activity section, there should be a section that says active energy, and if you scroll down a bit further, there should be a section that's called resting energy. So you can use this to your advantage by looking at it throughout your day, and if you add your resting calories and active calories burnt together, that will leave you with the total amount of calories you've burnt that day, and you'd want to know this so that you can make sure that you are actually in the sufficient deficit that you want to be. So if you're really serious about it and want to track the actual amount of calories that you're burning each day instead of basing it off of the calculator's estimate, then this is definitely an option, and it's really helpful, but it's absolutely not required. So once you've figured out your maintenance calorie count, you want to subtract 1 to 800 from that number, and that will leave you with how many calories you want to be eating each day in order to maintain the deficit that you want. So typically I would recommend starting in the 1 to 300 calorie deficit range, but how big your calorie deficit is dependent on how high your body fat percentage is. So if you are a higher body fat percentage, the more likely it is that you are going to start your calorie deficit in the 3 to 500 calorie deficit range versus the 100 to 300 calorie deficit range. So the bigger your calorie deficit is, the shorter that you're going to want to sustain that calorie deficit. It is all up to personal preference though, so if you're able to sustain a really high calorie deficit for a long period of time, then that is totally up to you. But usually what is mentally easiest is going to be increasing the size of your calorie deficit by 50 to 100 calories every week or every other week, and maintaining that calorie deficit, build up for 4 to 16 weeks. So once you've figured out what your calorie deficit will be and how long you're going to be sustaining it for, you are ready to move on to number 2. So the second most important thing when it comes to cutting fat is going to be your protein intake. So it's going to be the only real needle mover when it comes to your macronutrients in terms of your results, and is the only macronutrient that you actually have to pay attention to. Ain't no way, bro. Ain't no way. What about the macro ratio? Carbs are going to make you gain more weight, and fat is just going to be bad for your cut. I used to be that guy. Don't be that guy. So the reason that protein intake is so important, especially when you're in a cutting phase, is that it will allow you to sustain currently existing muscle as well as the growth of new muscle tissue on top of that. So when you're cutting, your muscle growth is going to be a little bit slower than it otherwise would be if you were in a bulk or a calorie surplus. But the correct amount of protein will allow you to sustain currently existing muscle while you're losing weight and maybe even put on a little bit more muscle. So the amount of protein you want to be consuming each day in order to properly sustain currently existing muscle as well as the growth of new muscle tissue is going to be anywhere from 0.6 to 0.8 grams of protein per pound of your body weight. Anything more than this won't really yield any additional, benefit or effect, although eating more than that is totally fine if that's what you like, but it is just up to personal preference. So carbs may cause the body to temporarily retain more water weight or even make you feel more bloated and sluggish, but this isn't any indication of any weight or fat gain because that water weight will later be lost in the form of urination and sweat. Fats, they're just higher and more dense in calories than protein and carbs are, so that's just something to keep in mind, but they won't have any direct negative effects on your weight loss goals. Other than protein, whatever percentage of your diet comes from fats or carbs is completely up to personal preference, but at the end of the day, what determines net weight loss is going to be a calorie deficit, not any kind of macronutrient ratio that you could have. Finally, we get into the last of the three things, which is going to be your workout routine or regimen. There's, again, lots of conflicting evidence and claims of what you should change when you're cutting in your workout routine, but I'm just going to go ahead and give you the most accurate answer. Unless you're doing a very high volume weight training program, you don't want to change anything in your program at all when you're cutting. Muscles require adequate stimulation in order to maintain their same size and especially in order to grow. If you happen to experience significant muscle loss when cutting, it's either because A, you just didn't have as much muscle mass as you thought you did, or B, because you're not getting the proper recovery, whether that be because you're not getting enough sleep, not eating enough protein, or your workouts are too intense, or any combination of the three. However, this isn't always the case, and if you're still finding it extremely difficult to get through each of your workouts and you have your calories, your protein intake, and your recovery needs all in check, then I would suggest lowering the total volume of your program by 1/4. An effective program for most people, though, will not require you to do this, and also lowering the total volume of your workout will cause you to burn slightly less calories, so that's just something to take into consideration. Another little extra tip here that is pretty important is going to be your sleep. Your sleep directly impacts how much energy you have, and when you're in a calorie deficit, you're going to tend to have a lot less energy than you normally would. So getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep per night is going to be imperative for the health of both your body and your mind. Alright, that about wraps up today's video. I really just wanted to highlight the three main most important things when it comes to getting results out of a cut. There are a lot of other things that go into it and helpful tips and information that I can give you to make your cut even more effective, but I could make a whole separate video on that, so let me know if you want to see anything like that in the future. More than anything though, I hope that this video was helpful to you and informative. Definitely be sure to leave a like and comment down below if you have any questions about anything I've spoken about in the video, or if you have any suggestions on future videos you'd like to see. Be sure to subscribe for more life, health, and wellness content, and also make sure that you follow my Instagram if you want any updates on future videos I'm going to be uploading, as well as any other content that I put up on there. But other than that, I hope that y'all have a great rest of your day, and I will see y'all in the next video.